What is up, everybody? Today, I'm going to talk about how our physical bodies are constantly communicating to us on a daily basis. And I'm also going to tell you why that's important and what we should be doing about it. When your body needs food, your stomach growls. When your body needs water, you usually get a headache. When your body needs a certain nutrient, then you're probably going to crave foods that have that nutrient in it, right? So those are just some of the ways that your body starts the conversation with you. Now, in addition to that, our bodies also respond to our thoughts and feelings. For example, when you're mentally stressed, your muscles will tense up. So, your shoulders might be really tense. When you're having feelings of anxiety, maybe you're experiencing digestive issues. Your body is either telling you something, so it's starting the conversation, or it's responding to you. That is why it's so important to get in touch with your body and take the time to form a relationship with it. Get to know it. And I know that might sound silly to have a relationship with your body, but I'm serious. Our minds and our bodies usually aren't on the same page, and that's a big issue. So when this communication improves, this will in turn increase your overall health, physically, mentally, spiritually, even because if you think about it, when you aren't communicating with maybe your friends or family, bad things tend to happen, right? There's miscommunication, which leads to people getting hurt, whatever. So when there's miscommunication with your body and your soul, I would say, your soul, heart, mind, then there's gonna be issues. Now, I'm sure, a lot of you guys kind of know that, but sometimes it's so simple that we forget. I'm going to share some examples that have happened in my life, showing you guys how my body has tried to communicate with me in different ways. Whether I responded or didn't respond to my body, that created a certain outcome. So basically, pretty much all my life, I've not been so great at setting boundaries. It started when I was young. Imagine little adolescent Brenna not knowing how to say no to other people, like her friends or something. It wasn't a big deal at the time, but there it was. Okay, so I never really noticed it. As I got older, this pattern continued to manifest in different ways in different situations, and I'm telling you guys this now because I've looked back and realized it. In the moment when these things were happening, I had no idea. Sometimes my lack of boundaries only affected smaller situations in my life. Maybe they were just seemingly insignificant situations. It really didn't affect anything, there were just little mishaps. But this was the way that the universe was trying to get my attention to look at something bigger, to look at that flaw. I wasn't good at setting boundaries, and the universe was like, hey, wake up, Brenna, So that was the universe's hints. Clearly, I never gave it the time of day, so these lack of boundaries continued to occur in bigger ways in my life. It wasn't my fault that I wasn't giving it the time of day. It wasn't a choice, but it's just something that I never noticed. This happened in relationships with friends, families, boyfriends, even jobs. I would be overworked or something just because I didn't know how to say no. I've been cheated on, robbed of money, drained of energy from a lot of people, all that kind of stuff. And it ranges from big to small. So I'm not really throwing a pity party, by the way, because I fully take 100% credit for everything that happened to me, because I know it was because of my lack of boundaries. That's what called those situations into my life, and they just manifested in those ways at the time, right? I was only attracting what was inside of me. So all those situations, big, small, medium, whatever, all of them occurred because I was unconsciously resisting to make boundaries. And again, the keyword is unconsciously. I really, at the time, didn't know I was doing that. I didn't know it was my flaw, even though I was getting the hints. But then the universe was like, all right, it's time to bring out the big guns. Now my lack of boundaries didn't manifest only in situations and relationships in my life, but it manifested in a physical ailment. So I developed leaky gut syndrome. And again, at the time when I developed it, I had no idea that I wasn't oh my God, I understand. If you're not familiar, leaky gut syndrome is a digestive condition in which your intestinal lining basically becomes hyperpermeable. So you can think about it as there's little tiny holes or cracks in your intestinal lining. Undigested proteins can actually pass through the intestinal barrier. So once they pass through, they enter your bloodstream, and it does not take a scientist to know that the juicy steak you had for dinner last night shouldn't be floating around in your circulatory system, So since these unwanted proteins are just floating around in your tissues and blood and everything, your body's like, whoa, we got to get these out of here. So it sends an immune response, which that's just your body trying to protect you. But really, eventually that can cause to an autoimmune disease like multiple sclerosis, lupus, irritable bowel syndrome. So you can think of leaky gut as like a precursor to autoimmune diseases. It's kind of like a danger sign that your body sends, right? Thankfully, my condition never manifested into an autoimmune disease, so I was able to reverse the leaky gut. Leaky gut is not fun. Some of the symptoms include digestive pains such as like gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, all that kind of stuff. Weakened immune system, excessive fatigue, nutritional deficiencies, joint pain, depression, anxiety, all of that. I mean, some days were better than other. It wasn't like I was in this constant pain. I mean, it usually happened after I ate certain things, and there'd be some triggers and such. Some days were definitely better than others, but I vividly remember times where I literally looked 6 months pregnant. Like, ask my mom, she was a witness. My bloating was just excessive, and it was so painful. Like, I was in so much pain, I'd be crying in bed, like, not being able to move, and I wouldn't know what to do. Like, you don't even understand how many FaceTime calls I had to have with my mom, just sitting there in so much pain, telling her that I might have to go to the hospital. Sometimes it felt like someone was squeezing my intestines. Other times there was, like, this widespread pain along, like, the epithelial of my whole digestive tract. Clearly, it was really painful, obviously, but it also affected me mentally, and it really just, like, lowered my mental state in general. Like, it was something I always had to think about, always on my mind, because there was pain, and even if there wasn't pain, I was worried about getting pain. So it prevented me from hanging out with friends, too, sometimes, just because maybe if certain days were worse than others. The point is to demonstrate that when we don't give attention to things that are happening inside of us, and I mean like our mind, our heart, our soul, that kind of thing, our physical experiences in this world will reflect that. So the universe is only trying to help us. I mean, you could say universe, God, you could say whatever you want, but it's only trying to help us. That's the only way to get our attention. Because, I mean, we're kind of stupid if you think about it. We don't get these hints right away, and again, they always start off small and insignificant, and you would never guess. But once those small hints don't work for us, they're gonna keep growing. Like, similar, maybe not similar situations, but things that have, like, the same underlying thing. You know how, like, I didn't set boundaries, so mine was in relationships, and then mine manifested in an illness that happened to do with, like, my boundaries not being strong. Like, my gut lining, the intestinal barrier was hyperpermeable, which means that the boundaries weren't strong. So that was the connection, by the way. I don't know if you caught that, but that was what it was supposed to be. I was able to reverse my leaky gut by means of, like, I took a good probiotic, you know, I did some little things. I made sure I avoided the foods that triggered my pain, but mostly it literally, like, instantly went away once I did some self-growth. It's not like at one day I grew, the next day it was gone. Like, it wasn't like that, but looking back, it makes so much sense. I just realized that I never set boundaries. It didn't just come to me in a dream, but over time, paying attention to my true thoughts and feelings, and paying attention to, like, who I am in this world and how I'm acting and such, like, I just realized that one of my flaws was that I didn't set great boundaries. I didn't link that with the leaky gut syndrome, but, like, looking back, everything makes sense now, and it makes sense why it's gone. And I mean, that's pretty cool if you ask me. Like, I just healed myself. It wasn't until I gave my area of weakness attention did my physical ailment go away. Now I think about it, I've been saying this a lot in, like, the few videos I've posted, but it's all about what's in the inside, right? Once you touch what's in the inside, once you become aware of it, even, like, things on your outside start to make more sense or come together. Another small example I have is I developed a cyst on top of my foot. I know that's, like, kind of gross, but I didn't know what it was at first. I just woke up one morning and I noticed it. It didn't hurt. It was just there. But because it wasn't causing me pain, I just left it. And then eventually, I guess it kind of grew or something, and maybe it pushed on some nerves, and I was experiencing pain. Since I'm a pretty active person in general, it really started to bother me. And I actually went to an orthopedic doctor. He just looked at it and said it was fine. He just said just however much pain I could tolerate. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it. Eventually, I started to experience more pain, and then I went back and I decided to get it drained because I didn't want to get surgery. I didn't want to be off my foot for that long, and draining the cyst. Sorry if this is grossing you out, you're just gonna have to deal with it. But when I got it drained, it basically saved me another 6 months. The outside of the cyst was still there, and that's why you need surgery to remove it all. But when you drain it, it just basically flattens it, and it'll probably grow back. So over a course of 6 months, it grew back. This time I didn't really notice it that much because it didn't hurt at all. So I was like, I'm chilling, this is fine. This exact time period, I actually was doing a lot of self-growth, I guess you could say again. I kind of realized that I was holding a lot of resentment, and specifically towards myself, which meant that I was really harsh on myself. It was hard for me to forgive myself for things I've done or said in the past. So this period of self-growth was kind of me having more compassion towards myself. I really just needed to forgive myself for a lot of things I felt guilty for, because that guilt and shame was really weighing me down, and I didn't even realize it. I had clinged on to these old hurts so much, and I felt like I didn't deserve forgiveness. I mean, we've all been there, you feel unworthy. Allowing myself to just accept who I am, giving myself grace, having compassion towards myself, which might sound selfish, but no, we all need it, guys. You matter too. The connection I made with the cyst and resentment, just like I did leaky gut and boundaries. So the cyst and resentment, I actually read a book at the time that explained that. So it was cool. It was cool timing. And oh yeah, so this is really recent. And the other week, I noticed that my cyst was just gone. It literally disappeared. It is completely flat. Top of my foot is completely flat. Call me crazy, but that cyst formed because of my resentment, and it only disappeared once I forgave myself and had compassion towards myself. And I didn't just put the cyst and resentment together. I actually read a book. Basically, the author was saying how cancer, for example, represents built up emotions and stuff or something like that. I actually don't remember now. But the cyst represented resentment. I really understand that some of the things I'm saying might be a stretch for some people, and maybe some people are just okay, it's luck, or it's just a coincidence, whatever. And that's totally fine, because it's not I'm saying this is facts and you have to believe it. This is just my truth. Also, take for example those people that have cancer and miracles happen. Stage 4, and then the next day it's just gone. There's some pretty insane stories out there. I'm sure you've heard of a lot of these miracle stories, and honestly, there's no explanation of why these things happen, and I think it's because it relates to our spirit. It doesn't relate to us on a worldly level. That's down here and our spirit's up here. Those miracles are happening at this level. And the only way to understand that is to understand that your physical body is related to your soul. It's to do with the cleansing and the healing work of your soul. That's the explanation of why miracles happen, in my opinion. This doesn't mean you need to stress out and try to figure out why you have a broken leg or what your eczema means or something. Your soul will make it known to you. Your job is to simply start forming that relationship with your higher self, or your inner self, or God, or your brain, or your heart, any way you want to put it. That's up to you. That's not the important part. It's forming that relationship with what's inside of you. Some people are scared to get in their heads, They're scared to really find out what those true thoughts and emotions and feelings are. An easy way to initiate this relationship between your physical body and your spiritual body, or your mind or heart, whatever you want to call it, your soul, the easiest way is to just become more present with yourself. This could look like taking more walks in nature, meditation, journaling, drawing, whatever it is, that's up to you. We all have so many external distractions that are muffling those true thoughts and feelings. Becoming more present makes it easier to become more aware of this. Our bodies are always speaking to us, whether it's responding to our situations or they're trying to tell us something. So how is your body feeling today? Maybe just take a piece of paper and start writing down the illnesses you have, the pains you have. It could be temporary or long-term. It could be anywhere from a cold to cancer. Just write it down and leave it there for now. So I'm not saying you have to go meditate for 4 hours right now. Just write it down And this is just the first step in the process of becoming aware. Forwards, listen to your body. That's the big takeaway for today. And remember that I'm here for you. I got you. Don't even worry. I'm on your team, all right?